Hey guys, what's up? It's Samantha, and this week I'm going to be memory keeping and talking about everything that I read for the week of August 24th through the 30th, and this kit that I'm using is a super old throwback Scribble Prints co-kit. I believe this is a reformat of a mystery kit that Andrea did right when she first started doing mystery subscription kits. I don't know. I asked Andrea how old she thought this was because it's definitely old, and both of us were thinking it's like 4 or 5 years old. I don't know. I've been sitting on this for a really long time. I feel like I got this when I was still living in my apartment, and we've been in this house for 3.5 years now. So if that puts that into perspective, it's been a while, and I've been waiting. It was one of those kits where I was like, I need the perfect week to use this, and then the more and more time went on, it's like becomes an older and older format kit, and then I'm like, planning differently or whatever, but made it work, and I pulled in lots of beautiful hollow foil for this spread, and I really, really like how it turned out. Particularly the deco at the top is some of my favorite deco that I've done in a hot minute. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into everything I read this week. I only have 3 books, and 2 of them were like nothing to write home about, so this will be pretty quick, and then stay tuned because I want to give you guys kind of a life update about everything that happened in the previous 2 weeks. Since last week, I had more books that I was talking about and didn't really have time to talk about everything that happened, but all right, we're going to jump in. So the first book that I read was the best book that I read this week, and that was Recommended for You by Laura Silverman. I had this as an advanced copy, and I gave this a 3.75 out of 5 star, which is pretty high for me to give a YA contemporary romance. This was a really cute, fun book. It wasn't anything like wildly new or different, but it was a solid addition to the YA contemporary romantic canon, and I had a lot of fun reading it. I actually read it pretty much all in one sitting while I was on desk at the library. It's very short. It follows 2 main characters who work at an independent bookstore over the kind of Christmas holiday season. Both of them are Jewish though, and I really liked that was in there as rep, and it's like a good book for me to recommend if someone's looking for a YA contemporary romance with like a Jewish, couple in it. And they were super cute. It's kind of like an enemies to lovers, enemies to friends to lovers situation. They are competing at this bookstore to sell the most books for this like holiday selling competition. They both want the money for different things. Like one of them's trying to fix their car, and the other one wants the money to like buy a plane ticket for his mom, for her to go visit her mom or something like that. And it is like adorable and really fun, and it's very, very festive because it's set in this mall where the independent bookstore is over the holiday season, and the friend groups are awesome, and it was just a really cute, good, fun time. Like I said, it wasn't anything wildly new. It follows kind of like the same, the expected formula for a YA contemporary romance. Like obviously the diversity and the representation was awesome. And one of the characters, the girl, I can't remember anyone's name at this point. I think Shoshana. Her name, I think, was Shoshana. Which, like, if that's right, I can never remember character names. So, like, +1 for me. Her moms are, like, in a female-female, like, marriage, obviously. Her moms. So, that was cool. There's just, like, a lot of good rep in this book that was not forced. It just was like normalized, and it wasn't a big deal, and I like that. So then the next book that I read was kind of a disappointment, and I think I rated this as 3 stars on Goodreads, and I might actually have to bump this down to like a 2.5 the longer I've sat with it, and that was Star Daughter by Shveta Thakrar. And I feel like there is a whole group of people who requested this book as an ARC, or who bought this book because of the absolutely gorgeous Charlie Bellwater cover. And unfortunately, this book was a big disappointment for me. I did read this as an ARC, and then I ended up kind of DNFing my ARC and finishing it on audio from my library because I couldn't make myself read any farther. I will say, like, the beginning 20% really captivated me, and I would read from this author again, but I felt let down by just about everything in this book, if I'm being honest. I would recommend this probably to people who are, like, a really big fan of, like, the Percy Jackson series or the Rick Riordan Presents kind of books. It's basically a YA urban fantasy featuring a main character who is half star, half human, and when she turns like 16 or 17 or something, her star part of her becomes like more starry. I don't really remember at this point. It was something like that, and she gets called to this competition to compete. I don't know, stars like inspire humans to do things. I don't know. There was like this singing competition or art competition. I don't know. And she was one of the competitors, even though everyone else was a human, but she's like half star. It didn't really make a whole lot of sense. And as I'm trying to explain it, it's just like emphasizing how little sense this book made. And I was so confused about what was going on. There was the one thing that I think was a positive of this book. There was a really good, strong female friendship. There's like boyfriend trouble and like angst and family drama, self-discovery, like all those things, but nothing about this. Like I've read all of those things done better in other books, and obviously the like representation is important, and I'm glad that that book exists for people who wanted to read that book. It exists now. I just don't think the book was very good, which is a huge disappointment. Like I said, I really liked the first 20% or so of this, and then it just like went downhill really fast for me, and I just didn't care about the competition, and all of the stuff was just weird, and I don't know. It just, I feel like I'm not doing a very good job of talking about this book, so we're going to move on to the next book because I don't really have anything else to say besides meh. So then the last book I read was an even bigger disappointment, and it was Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angelis, and I gave this a 2 out of 5 stars. Oh boy. So I didn't expect this to be great literature going into it. I also had an arc of this. I was expecting something like fun and fluffy the way it was marketed. I was expecting something like Caraval, where it's not good, but like it's like trash and I'm a raccoon kind of good, like where it's not like good literature, but it's a fun time to read. Like I'm going to pour myself a glass of wine and like wrap myself up in a blanket and read this book and have a great Friday night kind of thing. This felt like a mashup of, elements from Caraval and Night Circus and Moulin Rouge and The Greatest Showman, and like all of these different elements I could see pulled from different books. I actually wouldn't be surprised if this started as Night Circus fanfic, because the two main characters were named like Cecilia and DeMarco, and Celia and Marco are the two main characters of Night Circus, and that was one of the first things I noticed, so do with that what you will. But I just, like, it had all of the elements based on the synopsis that it should have just been like a fun fantasy romp, but I was so disappointed, and it felt very overwritten, very purple prosy. It didn't really feel like lush or lyrical. I was just skimming, because nothing, like, not skimming pages, but I'd end up like kind of skimming paragraphs, and I wouldn't miss anything because it was just a lot of everything was over described, and the characters felt really flat, and I was so confused because all of the characters were kind of coded or portrayed as being in their early to mid 20s, but this read, like, reading level wise, like a very young YA novel. And so I was just very baffled about who the intended audience, like, which is a thing that happens to me with a lot of YA fantasy books. I'm like, who was the intended audience for this? Because I feel like it was simultaneously 12-year-olds and 25-year-olds, but like by trying to pander to both, you just didn't make a good book. I don't know. Like I said, obviously with the purple prose and it being overwritten, there was a lot of telling, not showing. And like, obviously there were like individual elements, or I'll say set pieces, because this book feels very much like different stage sets, or which there are actual literal stage sets. So there were some interesting things in the book, but the book as a whole just fell really flat to me. It just wasn't good. I would say this was a huge disappointment, more so even than Stardaughter, even though I didn't feel as strongly negative about Stardaughter. Like, I was just like, okay, like, yeah, whatever. Like, this was a huge disappointment to me because I really wanted to love this book, and I feel like I'd heard a lot of early praise for it, even though I was also reading it early, but I think like a naked copy of it went out early in some book box. Like, a naked book is something without a dust jacket. It had like an imprinted cool fabric cover thing or something. And I remember that like went out a couple months early in some box, and I saw the book all over Bookstagram, and everyone was reading it and like raving about it and all this stuff. And then I read it and I'm just like, what the heck is this? Like, this isn't good. So that was just a really big disappointment. I will not be continuing with the series, unfortunately. I don't necessarily think I would ever read anything from this author again. I really did not like the writing style. It just wasn't good. I'm sorry. But that was everything that I read this week. And like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, this was the week my job share, or like going Row Has to Go part-time, got approved, which was awesome. This was actually my last week of working full-time, and it was much needed. I was just about at the end of my rope. It was a very stressful week. I did go get my hair cut on Saturday, and I did get to see my parents, and this was when COVID cases were way lower, obviously, and my parents hadn't been going anywhere, and I'd just been going to work, and, you know, I am not seeing my parents for the holidays this year, but at this point, case numbers were way, way, way lower, so I felt comfortable, like, just going to my parents' place and seeing them at the time, but, you know. So that was everything that happened this week. It was everything. I feel like I ended up talking about those books that I didn't like way more than I thought I would. But, you know, that happens. You move on. So we all have bad books in there, you know, just can't all be winners. So I really love how this all came together. It was funny using this paper. It like was not like all the way sticky anymore. And it has like that smell. If you've had an older Scribble Prints Co. kit around for a while, like smells almost kind of minty. This definitely smells like that. I'm really glad I finally got to use it. Like I said, I love the deco. I love all the hollow shine on this. It turned out really, really cute. So, you know, I think this might have been my oldest kit still in my collection. Not 100% on that, but pretty close. But it turned out real cute. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you in my next one. Bye, guys.